Alright, hey guys, let me start this off by saying that I'm horrible at making videos and I say the word a lot that I've noticed. This is like a fifth time I tried recording this, so sorry if that's annoying. I'm gonna try really hard not to do that this time. But I wanted to talk about a heavier topic. I'm gonna go ahead and throw in some, I guess, trigger warnings. I am gonna discuss a little bit about sexual assault, bullying, suicide, depression, things of that nature. So that's just a heads up before you guys get into this video. But I want to talk about childhood obesity and kind of my experience with it, how it affected and shaped my life, and how I've kind of learned to cope with things, and why I'm a big advocate for, I guess, preventing childhood obesity in the future, making sure that our future children are healthy. And yeah, so let's get started. I have a notebook to try to keep my trains on thought, keep my thoughts on track. I am having a blonde moment. All right, so let's just start out and get all comfy here. Kind of the backstory. I'm not going to go into detail because I definitely made a whole video on my life story or whatever. So I started getting really big in like 4th or 5th grade. And my mom had to start taking me to Sears to get plus size kids clothes. So that's when I noticed I was different from everybody else. I couldn't wear the same clothes that my friends could wear. And that kind of started to take a toll on me. I didn't experience too much bullying in elementary school. Middle school is where a lot of this is going to take place. Excuse me. I just got done eating. When I eat, I sometimes have to cough. It's weird. But let's talk about kind of the things that I ate leading up to me gaining a lot of weight in 4th and 5th grade, and kind of what my life was like back then as far as activity level, socioeconomic class, all of that stuff. Excuse me. So I would say that we grew up fairly poor. In my storytime video, I did mention that my dad broke his back when I was a baby. I think he broke it lifting a really heavy computer. Back in the day, computers were very heavy and very large, and he broke his back lifting something, and he actually had to have surgery. That's how bad it was, and he couldn't work. So my mom had multiple jobs most of my life to try to make up the income for 2 people and to support my brother and I. So we didn't grow up with a whole lot of money. We ate a lot of boxed dinners, a lot of Hamburger Helper. You guys know that's a really cheap way to eat. We ate all of our vegetables and fruit out of cans, so we didn't really do fresh produce because it would go bad too fast, and if we didn't finish it, it would be a waste of money. We ate a lot of bread, so a lot of like sandwiches and peanut butter jelly, all that stuff. Ramen noodles was a big thing. Raviolis, like canned raviolis. We ate a lot of that as well. So we didn't eat healthy, but we ate a lot of super processed foods, which is really common. That's why obesity and poverty go hand in hand, because a lot of the chemicals and the processed things that they put in cheap food also results in obesity, unfortunately. And it really sucks. It's not fair. It's really not, that it's so hard for families to access healthy food who are in poverty. But there are ways to do it, but we're not going to go into that today. So what was my activity level like? I was actually very active. I was extremely active as a kid. I went swimming every summer all the time. I would run up and down the streets with my friends. I would ride my bike everywhere. We would wrestle, jump on the trampoline. I was super, super active, believe it or not, but you can't out-exercise a bad diet. So eventually my diet caught up with me, and I began gaining a lot of weight. And at that point, it became really difficult for me to perform physical activities. So running and playing outside wasn't very easy, and so I became sedentary. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. So I became very, very sedentary, and I kind of compiled on top of each other in those 2 aspects of life: highly processed foods, not moving anymore, and I just continued to gain and gain and gain. I was probably about 130 to 150 pounds in 5th and 6th grade. I didn't experience too much bullying in 5th grade, as I said. So 6th grade is where things started going downhill mentally. Quite a few different traumatic events happened between bullying, friends, toxic friendships. Sexual assault happened in 6th grade. So I'm going to start with kind of my first instance where I realized I was getting bullied for my weight. I had a friend in band in 6th grade, and he would make fun of my double chin. He would laugh about how it bounced when I played my instrument. So all the kids in the class thought that was funny, and they'd start cracking up and laughing about it. My middle school band teacher is the only teacher that ever stepped in and did anything about the bullying. None of my other teachers in the school ever did anything. They never stood up for me. They never said anything to the kids. They never said anything to me to comfort me. But she did. She always did. And so that's one of the reasons that I think I clung to band so much and it became such a big part of my life, is because she made a big difference in my life. So if you're watching this, thank you. You really meant a lot to me. I don't know if you realize that. Sorry. So moving on. That same kid, we had a very, what we call, toxic friendship. He would like to play duets with me on free practice and band class, and that's like the only class we really had together. And he would partner up with me on things, but at the same time also make fun of me to get laughs. And I realized later on in that school year that he was also being severely tormented and bullied, probably worse than he was bullying me. And so I understood where he was coming from, and I kind of started to forgive him. He did continue to make comments and things. Eventually turned into cyberbullying with him and a friend of his that didn't go to our school. And we both had some back and forth issues online. This was like the first instance of cyberbullying, so our teachers and stuff didn't know how to handle it because the internet had just started becoming popular when I was in 6th grade. So the next instance kind of piled up from there. I became kind of the eyesore. This is the turning point where I became really quiet and people really started to pick on me, was in art class in 6th grade. My teacher decided to leave the room, and when she left the room, she left a classroom full of 30 kids, 6th through 8th grade. Some of these 8th graders were held back for a year or two, so they were much older than I was at 11 years old, maybe even 10. I don't remember, I think it was 11. And one of the boys and a couple of other girls and stuff that were sitting at a table kind of in the back of the room started pointing me out. There's only 2 6th graders in there. It was me and the girl next to me, and she hardly spoke any English. They started making comments about how I was never going to have a boyfriend because I was big. They made comments that she's never going to get to see any of this, so let's show her now, if you guys catch my drift, without going into too much detail. He approached me, and I'm just going to put it this way. The class was trying to chant and get me to turn around and look at what he was trying to show me. And I refused to look, and the girl next to me refused to look. And teacher walked in, he ran back to his seat, and I stayed silent. So, like I said, I don't want to go into detail at all, but I think you guys probably catch my drift on what happened. So I left class that day, and I walked downstairs to go to my next class, and I was completely silent. I didn't say anything to anybody, and the guidance counselor, our 6th grade counselor who had to deal with the bullying from band, she caught me in the hallway, and she said, "You're always smiling. You're not smiling today. What's going on?" And I'm really thankful for her and that she caught that, because if she hadn't, I probably would have never told anybody what happened, and I would have, because I was scared of these kids. These kids bragged about being involved in gangs and bragged about being in trouble with the police at home and all this stuff. So keep in mind, I went to a very low income inner city school. So these kids terrified me. I didn't know what they were involved with. I didn't know who they knew. I was scared to say anything, but she convinced me that it would be fine. So I opened up and I told her what happened. And I don't think I was ever the same for the rest of middle school since this happened. But nothing happened to the kid. I don't know. He may have gotten detention. He could have got suspended for a few days, but I noticed that his friends catch me in the hallway and in art class, and they call me a snitch and threaten me. And my parents finally went to the district and had to threaten them to take further action if they didn't do something about it. They tried to put me in a different school, which didn't work out. So I'm kind of glad, because I ended up falling in love with band at the school, and my band teacher made a big difference in my life, so I'm really glad that I got to stick it out. But finally, we had to have a big meeting, sit at a big round table with the administration, my parents, and I had to relive everything over and over and over again. And I had to keep telling my story over and over again, and it was very traumatizing. I actually, ironically, forgot about this for a good chunk of my life until about last year, when it all kind of came back. But anyway, they finally took this kid and the 3 kids that were threatening me, and I think they sent them off to a school for kids who were traumatized, and who experienced a lot of behavior problems. So I quickly learned that this kid had some serious issues, and I just felt like I was safe again when they were gone. So 7th grade rolls around, and the bullying continues. Different group of kids bullying this time. Another kid came into the school that wasn't there before. She liked to call me Big Mac, and she would make fun of my clothes because I didn't have Nike and all this other stuff. I was wearing like Payless shoes, and my clothes were from Walmart, and we had to wear school uniforms, and I couldn't fit very much because I was so big. I had a hard time finding clothes that would fit me right, so I'd wear these big, baggy, like women's clothes. They were way too long, they'd drag on the floor, like the bottoms of the pants were always tore up, and my parents didn't have a whole lot of money, and they couldn't afford regular clothes for normal use and school uniforms. The school thought that they were saving families money by requiring uniforms, and that was not the case at all. My family had a harder time affording clothes because now they had to get me regular clothes for outside of school and then clothes for inside school. And they couldn't afford a whole lot. So I had 2 or 3 school uniforms, and only maybe 2 pairs of pants would fit me at a time. So we'd have to wash them every 2 days, but I would get picked on constantly for wearing the same 2 pairs of pants every week. So that was tough. I wasn't really into makeup or anything at that point. I remember kids, when teachers would make seating charts, they would put a kid next to me, and that kid would complain out loud and make fun of me and say, I don't want to sit next to her, she's gross and fat. And the teachers would never do anything. They would just say, sit where I told you to sit. They wouldn't say that, they wouldn't take them out of the room and talk to them and figure out why the heck they were saying such terrible things. They just ignored it. And I just sat there with my head down, quiet all the time. I never talked. After that 6th grade experience, I stopped talking in school. I didn't want to make friends. I didn't want to have anything to do with anybody. I thought everybody hated me. I hated everybody else. I just felt like everyone was judging me. Everyone was making fun of my weight. I felt like the eyesore of the room. Kids didn't want to be partners with me in like group projects. I just felt completely worthless. Around 8th grade, I completely stopped eating at school. So I started binge eating when I got home from school. I'd binge eat for like 5 or 6 hours, just Cheetos and raviolis, and then I'd eat dinner, and I eat 3 or 4 servings of dinner at a time. And it just got to the point that I would starve myself all throughout school and then come home and then overeat. So that's where my binge eating disorder came from. It was like a coping mechanism. Come home from school stressed out, feeling worthless, feeling like a piece of crap, and then just gorge myself. And I knew that it was killing me, and I didn't care. I knew that it would harm me in the long term, but to me it was a slow suicide. This is when I started developing suicidal depression, and I didn't know how else to do it, so I figured I'll just eat as much as I possibly can, and eventually it'll catch up. Eventually someday I'll be put out of my misery. It will kill me, and that's what I did. And I got into self-harm at that point. I learned how to cope that way. So then I got into that. And then I started wearing big baggy long sleeve shirts and hoodies and things. And family would, kind of tease me about that during family gatherings. Like, why are you wearing hoodies in the middle of the summer? And it was to cover up my scars. But in 7th grade, I would have cases where boys would come up and they would say, hey, my friend has a crush on you. And I turn around and try to see who they're talking about and what's going on, and a group of kids in the back of the cafeteria would be cracking up as the kid dramatically was like, no, she's gross, no I don't, she's fat, I'm not into that, she's so disgusting, and trying to defend themselves and just completely like tear me down. And then I developed like trust issues. The reason I stopped eating at school was because one day in the cafeteria, a group of kids that were speaking in Spanish, I couldn't understand what they were saying. they'd offered me a slice of pizza, and one of my other classmates whispered in my ear and said, "Don't take it, they spit in it." And I wasn't planning on taking it anyway, but I turned it down. I just decided, okay, if I eat, healthy food, people are going to think I'm on a diet because I'm fat. If I don't eat healthy food, I'm the laughing stock and people are staring at me. And it became that way. And so I just decided to stop eating at school. I didn't eat breakfast. I didn't eat lunch. And that's when I started binge eating, as I said earlier. But it just got to the point where I felt like a waste of space. I feel like I took up too much space in the world, and that nobody was ever gonna like me. I was never gonna have a partner in life, never gonna get married. I was always told and teased that I would crush somebody. So that was my self-worth. I believed what they said, and I convinced myself that it was true, and I was just slowly waiting for my obesity to kill me. And then I got it really into band, and that became a big part of my life around my sophomore year of high school. And I started to feel some worth in myself again. I felt like there was a purpose now. I had a goal, and I still wasn't eating healthy. I was still depressed, but I felt like there was something out there for me to do in the meantime. But it wasn't until I got to college, I realized that I had some lasting psychological issues from the bullying and from my weight that were very, very, very difficult for me to overcome, and that I still battle with to this day. I would apologize for taking up too much time. If I had to ask a professor a question, I would feel bad, because I always felt like I was just a pain in the butt to everybody. I wasn't worth anything, that I was annoying, and that they didn't like me. I convinced myself that nobody liked me because the kids wouldn't sit next to me in class. My friends informed me that they didn't want to be seen with me in school growing up because they didn't want to be bullied. So we were secret friends outside of school. I wasn't allowed to tell anybody that we were friends because they were popular kids. And so I just felt completely worthless for a long, long, long time. I hardly had any friends. Even if we went to the grocery store, I just hated everyone. I thought everyone in the world was out to get me. I had no faith in humanity at that point. I thought that everyone was like the kids in middle school. I figured these are middle school kids that were bullying me, but all grown up. They're the same people. And I would get stares and stuff every time we went to the store. And I just quit going in public. I remember 7th grade, I didn't go to the store with my mom anymore. I didn't go anywhere. I stayed at home. I didn't have any new clothes. I wore hand-me-down clothes for my brother until they couldn't fit anymore because I got too big. Because I just didn't want to be seen in public. It was hard enough for me to be seen at school to begin with. So I just didn't leave the house for a long time. I didn't go outside and play. I just stayed in my bedroom on my computer all day long. And I practiced my instrument. That's all I did. So, yeah, I mean, in college, when guys would tell me that they liked me, I thought one of two things. I thought either A, they had a fat fetish and they were like a feeder and they wanted, they had some weird thing going on. Or B, they were playing a cruel joke. They were, oh, you like me back? Psych, I'm just kidding, I don't like you. You're fat. Just like they did in middle school. That's what I was expecting. I had crushes on boys in middle school and all of them would completely reject me. And so I just didn't feel like a guy was ever going to like me, that guys only like skinny girls no matter what size they were. They only wanted skinny, pretty girls, and I never felt that way. So I turned every guy down that ever showed any possible interest in me, shut them down immediately. Didn't feel like I was worth it. Like I said, I thought they were into something weird, and that lasted a long time, and it was very, very difficult for me to get over, to realize that I was actually worth something in life. I completely lost my relationship with God. I had no faith. I didn't understand why he let me feel this way or let me live this way, why I was fat. I went to bed crying, hoping that I could wake up the next morning and just be skinny like all the other kids in school. just, you know, it was horrible. It really was. And to say that it's okay, just let kids be fat, that hurts, because I know that it's not good for them. If a parent can help avoid their children from becoming an unhealthy weight, they need to. And it's just a matter of educating yourself on what's healthy for your kids and what's not. Letting them get to this point, to the point where they're being tormented in school and they're being bullied and they're depressed. It's not fair to them. And people make the excuse, well, society needs to change. And while I agree with that, I do think the society needs to change their view on different size bodies and everything. I totally get that. But at the same time, if I look back at all my bullies, they were all traumatized and bad things had happened to them. They were either abused mentally, physically, sexually at home, and they learned these things from somewhere. And they learned to project their feelings onto somebody else so that they could get those feelings off of their chest. So they're projecting their insecurities and their traumas onto others. And unfortunately, I don't think that's ever going to completely stop. So those kids are going through a lot at home, and if their parents can't even treat their own children with respect and love, what makes you think that parent is going to teach their children to respect another kid and their insecurities and their weight and their whatever differences they may have from each other? And it's to expect the entirety of society to change for one small group of kids is honestly, to me, unrealistic. And I don't expect that. And this is coming from somebody who's been through it, who's been through the trauma, and who used to think that way. Used to think, well, society sucks. I can't help that I'm fat. Society sucks. I get it. I've been there. But now that I'm an adult and I've kind of grown up and I've reflected a lot on my life and I've lost the weight, I do realize that I am much physically healthier, mentally healthier than I was when I was bigger, and I was able to get over these things easier after losing some of the weight. So I just think it's important to make sure that our kids are healthy and that they have healthy mental coping mechanisms for bullying, because it may not ever completely stop. We can get onto the kids, we can get them in trouble, maybe those kids will improve, but there's always going to be bullies out there. There always has, and there probably always will be, until we fix like the root cause, which I'm not going to get into. But these things aren't going to magically disappear to tiptoe around our kids' feelings. And so making sure that they're healthy and that they understand why kids bully each other. Like, I have conversations with my niece all the time. Like, let's think about this bully's life. Do you think that they have a really good life? My niece is like, no, their parents are divorced and I don't know, their mom doesn't have a whole lot of money, and their dad doesn't know them, isn't in their life. And I said, okay, so they're probably insecure and probably a little bit jealous, and they're taking it out on you because they have a hard time. They're having a hard life right now. And my niece understands that, and so she doesn't take it personally. She got to the point where she said, I feel bad for them. I wish they weren't mean, but I feel bad for them. And she understands there's no excuse for being mean, but she gets it. It's not okay that they're mean to her, but she understands why. And I think a lot of kids need more of that, need to be explained why other kids react the way that they do, and that they should let it roll off their shoulders because that kid is struggling just like they are. And just learning healthy ways, self-affirmations, learning to teach your kids to love themselves no matter what, and to take care of their bodies and to take care of themselves. And I think that's what's really important right now, because you can't control other people, but you can control yourself. You can control what's in your mind. Your children have to learn to do that. And that's kind of my takeaway, because I can't control the trauma that my bullies went through. I can't control how they projected onto me. I can't control them, but I can control how I react to what they did. And I've learned that, and I still struggle. I mean, 90% of the time I can be totally happy and great, and 10% of the time, sometimes these things haunt me, and I get too far in my head, and I start thinking about these things and remembering these situations, and I feel worthless, and I feel like people don't like me. I feel like people I look up to dislike me. I feel like they think I'm annoying. I feel like I take up too much space. Some of the weird habits that I have is just not sitting directly next to somebody because kids didn't want to sit next to me in school. I didn't want to annoy somebody or talk too much to them because I didn't want to embarrass them, because my friends thought I was an embarrassment and didn't want other kids to know that I was friends with them. And so these are things that I still recognize that I hold on to that I need to kind of let go of and learn to love myself and to quit jumping to conclusions and assuming that people hate me just because of my past experiences. So it's a learning process, it's a healing process, but we're getting through it. And I don't know, I'm hoping that maybe this really long 25-minute video might help somebody who is still getting over the effects of childhood obesity, or maybe somebody who has kids who doesn't want their kids to go through the same thing. What's really hard is that there's a lot of parents who didn't struggle with childhood specific obesity. Maybe they are obese as an adult, or maybe they're never obese at all, and their kids become bigger and they don't really know what to do about it. They don't understand how to fix it because they've never had to fix their diet. They've never had to change their diet or do anything to lose weight. And so they don't know how to correct their child's diet. So I'll try to make some videos and series on like things that parents can do to help their kids make better choices, and kind of what I wish my parents had done. I love my parents to death. I'm not going to bash them through this at all. I think they tried their best. They never experienced childhood obesity. They weren't super obese as adults either, so they didn't get it. And so that's why I'm hoping to maybe make this kind of little series and try to put some light and some perspective onto what it's like for a child who's gone through this, who's now an adult, and how we can kind of shape it. I kind of rambled there, but if you listened, you're the real MVP. Thank you for watching. Hopefully I was helpful in some sort of way. So I'll see you guys next time.